Most older men see a woman smile at them and immediately tell themselves the same lie. She's just being polite. And in doing so, they dismiss something that is almost never politeness, and almost always something far more significant that they have completely stopped expecting to receive. What we're covering today are 7 specific psychological reasons why women smile at older men. Reasons rooted in evolutionary psychology, attachment research, and the specific neurological responses that older male qualities produce in the female nervous system. One of them involves something older men have built without realizing it has genuine value. Another involves a quality that younger men simply cannot replicate regardless of effort or intention. And the 7th, the climax, is the deepest truth about why older men are more compelling to women than most of them will ever fully believe. All 7, let's go. Here is the honest premise. Older men have been taught by culture, quietly, persistently, across decades of messaging, that desirability belongs to the young, that attraction is the domain of the 25-year-old, that after a certain age you become scenery rather than someone worth noticing. That message is not just wrong, it is the specific inverse of what female attraction psychology actually shows. Today we correct it with real psychology, real research, and the specific reasons why women, across age groups, across circumstances, respond to older men with a warmth they often cannot fully explain, but that is never accidental. 7 reasons, real depth. Let's get into it. Bold claim. The first and most immediate reason women smile at older men has nothing to do with conscious attraction. It is a direct neurological response to the specific quality of settled, grounded presence that genuine experience produces. And it happens before a single word is spoken. Here is the neuroscience. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory documents that the human nervous system continuously evaluates the states of other nervous systems through a process called neuroception, assessing whether nearby people are regulated or dysregulated, settled or anxious, safe or threatening. When a woman's nervous system encounters a genuinely grounded older man, someone whose internal state is stable, unhurried, and not contingent on external circumstances, it responds with a specific physiological shift. The threat detection system quiets. The social engagement system activates. Something in her body says, "This is safe." That physiological response gets experienced consciously as warmth, as the specific sensation of being drawn toward someone whose presence makes the room feel more manageable. Younger men, still in the process of building their internal ground, often carry the nervous energy of people who haven't yet found their footing. Their presence activates rather than settles. Their energy requires management rather than providing rest. The older man who has genuinely found his internal ground through years of lived experience creates something she may have rarely felt in purely social interaction. The specific neurological relief of being near someone whose settled energy is contagious. And the smile? The smile is her nervous system exhaling. Scenario: a man named Richard, 62, moved through rooms with the specific unhurried quality of someone who had stopped needing to prove anything, attended a professional event. A woman named Margot, 41, found herself in conversation with him within 30 minutes. She told her colleague afterward, "I don't know how to explain it. I was tense about the whole evening. Within 5 minutes of talking to him, I was completely relaxed. He didn't do anything specific. He was just calm, and somehow that calmed me too." Richard hadn't performed anything. He had simply brought decades of genuine internal work into the room, and her nervous system had responded to it exactly as the nervous system responds to genuine safety. What most older men do wrong, they either don't notice these responses, explaining them away as mere politeness, or they notice them and immediately become self-conscious, which undermines the exact quality that produced the response. What actually works, simply being present, not performing presence, actually inhabiting the room, the conversation, the moment, with the specific unhurried quality that genuine settledness produces. That quality cannot be faked, but it also does not need to be performed. It is simply what remains when the need to prove something has genuinely been released. Bold claim, the gray hair, the lines, the physical evidence of decades, worn without apology and without performance, communicates something to the female nervous system that no amount of physical youth can replicate. And women smile at it, not despite what it represents, but because of what it represents. Here is the psychology. Evolutionary behavior research documents that female attraction, particularly in mature women who have developed genuine self-knowledge, is significantly weighted toward what researchers call vitality indicators and competence signals. Evidence that a man has navigated life successfully, that he has been through difficulty and emerged with something intact, that the years were genuinely lived rather than simply accumulated. The gray hair is not a liability. It is visual documentation of duration, of survival, of a person who kept going through whatever the years produced and came out the other side with enough left to be present and genuine in this moment. Younger men don't have this evidence yet. They cannot. It can only be accumulated through actual time, actual experience, actual difficulty navigated with enough self-awareness to produce genuine learning. The older man who wears his years without apology, who doesn't deflect with self-deprecating jokes about his age, who doesn't perform being younger than he is, who simply inhabits the complete, present, fully aged version of himself, communicates something that lands powerfully in a woman's attraction psychology. He communicates, I have been somewhere. What I am now is the product of real experience. There is substance here. Mini-story. A woman named Caroline, 48, was asked by her younger sister what she found attractive about the men she had been drawn to in recent years. She thought about it for a moment. They look like they've been somewhere, she said. I don't mean traveled, I mean lived, like the years actually happened to them, and they absorbed something from those years rather than just surviving them. Her sister asked, how can you tell? The way they carry themselves, Caroline said immediately. Whether they apologize for being their age or whether they just are it, the ones who are comfortable with what they are. Those are the ones worth paying attention to. The smile she gives those men is recognition of someone who has arrived not at a destination, but at genuine comfort with the person the journey has produced. Bold claim, one of the most powerfully attractive qualities available to an older man, and one of the most specific reasons women smile at them, is the quality of listening that genuine experience tends to develop. And this quality is immediately, viscerally detectable by the female nervous system. Here is the psychology. Genuine listening, the kind that tracks not just words but meaning, that follows the thread of what someone is actually communicating rather than simply processing their words, is a skill that develops through experience. Specifically through the accumulated experience of discovering, repeatedly, that other people's interior lives are genuinely more complex and genuinely more interesting than surface interaction suggests. Younger men, operating with the self-focus that is developmentally appropriate at their stage, often listen to respond. They process what is said just long enough to form their own contribution. The other person's words are a stimulus for their own next sentence rather than information worth genuinely receiving. Older men who have done genuine inner work tend to listen differently. They have learned through actual experience that the most interesting thing in most rooms is usually the person speaking. That patience with another person's unfolding thought is more rewarding than the performance of their own intelligence. When a woman speaks to a man who genuinely listens, who asks follow-up questions that prove he tracked not just the surface of what she said, but the meaning underneath it, she experiences something that is neurologically significant. She feels received, actually, genuinely, completely received. And that experience is so rare that it produces an immediate, powerful response. The smile is gratitude, surprised gratitude, the specific warmth of someone who wasn't expecting to be actually heard, and was. Bold claim, the quality women find most immediately, most viscerally compelling about genuinely settled older men is not wealth or status or experience. It is the complete absence of the need to demonstrate any of those things. And that absence communicates something her nervous system reads as one of the rarest signals available. Here is the psychology. Social performance, the constant monitoring and management of how we are being perceived, is one of the primary sources of social anxiety in human interaction. Most people carry it to some degree in most social situations, and it is immediately, consistently detectable by anyone paying attention to the quality of another person's energy. The man who is still trying to prove something, still performing confidence rather than inhabiting it, still managing his impression rather than simply being present, carries a quality of social vigilance that her nervous system registers as mild anxiety. As someone whose internal state is contingent on external validation, the older man who has genuinely arrived at the understanding that he has nothing left to prove, who moves through rooms without monitoring his reception, who speaks without calibrating his words for optimal impression, who is simply and completely himself without the overhead of impression management, creates an experience that is almost shockingly rare. He is just there, completely, without agenda. And that specific quality, genuine presence without performance, is one of the most immediately attractive things available in human interaction, because it is the inverse of what most social interaction feels like. Scenario: a man named Gerald, 65, had the specific quality of someone who had genuinely stopped caring what rooms thought of him, not through indifference, but through genuine self-acceptance, walked into a dinner party. He wasn't the most accomplished person in the room. He wasn't the most physically impressive. But a woman named Patricia, 53, found herself drawn to him within minutes of arriving. She described it to her husband later. He just seemed completely comfortable being exactly who he is. No performance, no agenda. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just there. You don't realize how rarely you encounter that until you do. Bold claim, the specific quality of an older man's voice, its unhurried pace, its lower register, its specific quality of confidence that comes from having said difficult things and survived the saying, communicates authority and safety simultaneously. And women respond to this combination with an immediacy that bypasses conscious evaluation. Here is the neuroscience. Research on vocal attractiveness documents that voice pitch, pace, and resonance communicate significant social information, including status, health, and emotional stability, at a neurological level that precedes conscious assessment. Lower-pitched voices are consistently associated with higher social status across cultures and across research contexts. Unhurried vocal pace communicates confidence, the specific confidence of someone whose words are worth waiting for, and the specific quality of a voice that has been tested by experience, that has delivered difficult news, navigated complex conversations, spoken truth in situations where truth was costly, carries an authority that practiced confidence cannot replicate. Older men who have lived fully and spoken genuinely tend to develop this vocal quality, not through training, but through accumulated experience. The voice becomes the external expression of internal settledness. And women, whose nervous systems are exquisitely tuned to vocal signals, register this immediately. The smile is often a response to the voice itself, before the content, before the specific words. At the level of the nervous system responding to a signal, it recognizes as calm, capable, and safe. Bold claim, one of the most profound and least discussed reasons women smile at older men who carry themselves with genuine aliveness is this: he is living proof that the thing most people are quietly afraid of is not what they think it is. Here is the psychology. Most people, particularly younger and middle-aged people, carry a quiet anxiety about aging, about whether the best parts of life are already behind them or still ahead, about whether the vitality and possibility they feel now is something they will gradually lose. The older man who inhabits his life with genuine presence, genuine curiosity, and genuine aliveness, who is visibly still engaged with the world, still building things, still learning, still genuinely interested in what is happening around him, provides something that is genuinely rare and genuinely reassuring. He provides evidence. Evidence that aging is not the diminishment that culture suggests, that there is a version of being 60 or 70 that is not smaller than the earlier versions, that is in many ways richer, more genuinely inhabited, more fully itself. When women encounter that evidence walking around in a person, when they meet an older man who is clearly, unmistakably, genuinely still alive in his own life, they respond to it with something that is part attraction and part relief. The smile says, "You make getting older seem like something other than loss. This is the truth reveal." The deepest psychological insight in this entire video. Bold claim, the deepest reason women smile at older men, the reason underneath all the other reasons, the one that produces the most genuine and most lasting response, is that something in the female nervous system recognizes a quality that cannot be performed, cannot be rushed, and cannot be accessed anyway except through actual time genuinely lived. The quality of having genuinely arrived, not at success, not at status, not at a particular accomplishment or a particular life circumstance, at themselves, at the specific, complete, fully inhabited version of who they actually are, after decades of becoming, of testing, of discovering through failure and success and loss and growth who they genuinely are when the performance finally becomes unnecessary. This quality of genuine arrival is not common at any age. Many people never reach it. They spend their entire lives performing a version of themselves rather than inhabiting one. They remain at 60 as self-conscious and impression-managed and internally divided as they were at 25, simply with more sophisticated ways of concealing it. But the men who do arrive, who have done the genuine, honest, ongoing internal work of knowing themselves clearly and accepting what they find, carry something in their presence that is immediately, powerfully recognizable to the female nervous system, not as a specific quality she can name, as a felt sense. The specific feeling of being in the presence of someone who is real, completely, unapologetically, genuinely real. Mini story. A woman named Helen, 60, described something she had noticed about the men she found most compelling. She had been trying to articulate it for years. She finally found the language in conversation with a close friend. The ones I can't stop paying attention to. They seem like they've finished becoming someone and started being them. There's no gap between who they are and who they're presenting. It's the same person, all the way through. Her friend asked, "How do you know when that's true?" "You just feel it," Helen said. "There's nothing to see through. When you talk to them, you're talking to the actual person, not a performance of a person, not a managed version, the actual one. That's what the smile is. It's recognition, finally meeting someone real. That is the deepest truth. Women smile at older men who have genuinely arrived at themselves because genuine arrival is extraordinarily rare, because most human interaction is performance at some level, because encountering someone who has done the work, who has lived enough and reflected enough and accepted enough to become genuinely, completely themselves, is one of the most significant and most immediately felt experiences available in human interaction. The smile is not politeness. It is not charity. It is the specific, involuntary response of a nervous system recognizing something it has been looking for. The question for every older man watching this is not whether that quality is available to him. It is whether he has done, and continues to do, the genuine work of becoming completely himself, of closing the gap between who he is and who he presents, of arriving finally and completely at the specific, remarkable, fully inhabited person that only his particular life could have produced. That arrival is the most attractive thing available, at any age, but especially at this one. Here is the question I want to leave you with. When was the last time you were completely, genuinely yourself in a social interaction? Not managing your impression, not monitoring your reception, just fully present and fully real? Because that version of you, the completely arrived, completely genuine, completely inhabited version, is what produces the smiles we talked about today. Not your youth, not your accomplishments, not what you provide or perform. You, the actual you, fully there. Drop in the comments. What is the one thing you most need to release to be more fully yourself in the rooms you walk into? I read every single one, and if today gave you something genuinely worth carrying, a new way of seeing yourself and what you have built, subscribe. Every week we bring this level of psychological depth and honest insight to the questions that actually matter. See you in the next one. Arrive completely, the rest follows naturally.